Bruh.
Welcome, everybody, to Juxtabros. It is our first episode ever. Different peas, same pod. Even people within this group wanted to know where did the Juxtabros come from, and it's like juxtaposition. If you know what juxtapose is, it's where you set different things side by side to get an interesting result. And I don't think you could find more different people than we have sitting here.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's I'm excited about today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everybody, announcer. I'm Kasey Goins, by the way.
I'm Brent Maddron.
I'm Bob Koerber.
Guys, this is an exciting first episode. This is an experiment. We don't even know what's going to happen. What we do know is this is not a brother show of Blanket Fort Chronicles,
right.
Although you still have Bob Koerber.
Right.
This is something we want it to be very topical, right, Brent?
Absolutely.
We wanted to do a podcast that would share our views. We are Christians, but we didn't want to do a Christian podcast.
Right.
I don't call a Christian plumber. I just call a plumber.
Right.
Right?
It is what it is. Yeah,
it is what
exactly.
it is. I mean, if they get the job done, I want it to be a place where atheists could tune in and listen to us. We're just three guys that's got totally different views that are just laying stuff out there and talking about it week by week. So what better to find out about us this week, how we're connected, than our stories?
Yeah.
You know what? It might be a pretty good idea too, just to kind of go around and just give a very brief synopsis of, like, I guess, our upbringings, because just to kind of show. I mean, if you know us, you know us, but if you don't, then you don't. So
an introduction,
just a small, quick little introduction. So
Brent, you want to start us out? Yeah, man.
So my name's Brent Maddron. I live in Decatur, Tennessee. I'm married to Katie Jennings. Me and her's high school sweethearts. Mm-hmm. Been married 16 years in December. We've got two daughters, Ainsley and Aislinn.
Yep.
Aislinn's 11, Ainsley's 16. So a little bit about me. I've battled addiction. I was actually a state trooper at one time, got fired from the highway patrol for drinking. Sobered up, but didn't really sober up. Never really put God first. You know, white knuckled, as they like to call it, as far as sobriety goes. And then I ended up relapsing, of course, and alcohol was always my thing. But I got into the construction business, got into excavating and stuff like that. And a guy who worked for me had some Adderall, right? And then I got on Adderall, and then next thing you know, I was a full-blown meth addict. Lost my company, my business, my wife and kids moved out. I mean, just went down a really, really, really dark road, Yeah. But by the grace of God, I'm sitting here today, and all that's restored and all that. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. So me and Bob went to high school together, you know, and
repping the MCHS, the Meigs County. Tigers.
Yeah.
Tigers.
Tiger Nation, baby. Tiger Nation. And we reconnected because we started going to Watts Bar Church, and that's where Bob's the music director up there, music pastor, I guess. Worship pastor, I'm sorry.
It's all those things.
And it's all of them. He's everything. Bob wears many hats up there.
He does.
And with Kasey, man, it's just crazy. Like, he come into my life at a real dark time, but when I really needed him, man. And he's one of my best friends today. But, y'all hear stories. We're all intertwined, and it's crazy how all this worked out and how we're all sitting here today. But, yeah.
It is crazy.
It really is.
Bob?
Yeah, well, I mean,
shout out.
I'm Bob Koerber. And, I was...
Any aliases?
There's a lot of aliases. We're not going to go through all of them because we don't have all the time. But there's a lot of aliases. But yeah, I'm Bob Koerber. I was born in Athens. We started. You went to City Park. I went to City Park.
That's right. I forgot about that.
So we started out very early.
Yeah.
It was weird because we were in the same class for a couple years. Yeah. I went to Watts Bar since I was born.
Right.
Like I was born into that church. My parents started going there in '87. I was born in '89. So that's all I've ever known was that church life. I didn't go down the path of addiction and all that. I never dealt with that directly. I mean, my family, I come from a family that did, and I've seen the effects of it. I've been a part of the effects of it, witnessed the effects of it. But thank God, by the grace of God, I that was just not a path that I went down. With that being said, just because I was a church boy my whole life doesn't mean I was perfect by any means. Even to this day, I've got, we've all got our own demons.
Amen.
And so, but that was just something that I didn't deal with. But coming from a family that it was a broken home. I mean, even though my parents were still together, they weren't there. Dad was never home. It was basically just me and my mom for a long time. My sisters are way older than me, so it's just a very different dynamic. It really is. We grew up very poor, so I wouldn't say like extreme poverty. I don't think that's but we did grow up very poor. There were times where we were.
Looking back now, you knew then. You didn't know then that you were extremely poor.
I didn't have a clue. But my friends did, and they were nice about it. They were amazing. But I was on the receiving end of a lot of hand-me-downs from my friends. And at the time, I was just thinking, oh wow, I'm getting cool, But I didn't realize my friends felt bad for me. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't realize that at the time. I married Kelsey Lacombe. Met her in church. Not really my high school, so we were kind of, I don't know, like I was 17 when we started dating. So, but we didn't go to the same high school. But we got married, and now we have two beautiful kids, two daughters, Lyra and Harper. And
awesome.
Harper's 5, Lyra is just turned 1. So
yeah,
she's a handful.
She's a handful. She's
awesome.
She is.
Your kids are. Everyone I know. People tell me my kids are awesome, and I believe them.
Yeah, yeah.
They're. I love them. There's times where I'm like, man, I love these kids, and they're like, man, they act just like their mom.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
But we've known each other. I've known you since I remember watching you play drums as a kid, and you'd make faces at me when I was like 5 or 6. So you'd make faces. I was like, this guy's the coolest ever.
He still does, don't he?
I will. If I catch your eye, I'll look. I'll make a face.
He does. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So
awesome. I'm Kasey Goins. It's cool because God. We said it's not a Christian podcast, and it's not, but you can't tell our story without God being involved in it.
No.
You just can't tell that story. That is what we believe. That is who we believe changed our lives. But you can't tell our story without you talking about addiction and trauma.
Right.
Yeah. And that's from you. You didn't go through addiction, but you experienced addiction.
Right.
My name's Kasey Goins. I grew up, my parents founded Watts Bar. I was the youngest by a mile. My oldest brother, Chris, is 16 years older than me. Mm. So I'm pretty sure I was a mistake, even though Mom and Dad would never say that.
We call them uh-ohs.
Yeah, uh-oh. We had an uh-oh, So I grew up in the church. I was rebellious, just to make a long story short, and I started experimenting probably my senior year with drugs, and it wasn't even drugs then, it was just weed. But back then, my parents would think weed would send you to hell. And, but it progressed from there. I got severely addicted to pain pills. I started stealing. I started stealing stuff from everybody. I used to say robbing, but that's not. I didn't rob, because robbing means that you took something from somebody that was present. That's way more ballsy. Yeah. I didn't do that. I took it from people that was not there. I mean, family, friends. If you're an addict, you hurt the ones closest to you first.
That's right. Yeah.
So those are the ones, they want to believe you. They want to believe you when you tell them something. So I hurt those people, and ended up, I got married at 24, I believe, 24, 25. Wasn't the right person. We split up on our honeymoon. We went to Mexico on our honeymoon, and we were the only one spoke English, and she wasn't talking to me. So we came back from there. We split up. I went through this crime spree, me and a few buddies of mine, and we ended up. I ended up getting 7 years. I got charged with multiple felonies, but it ended up getting drugged down to 4 felonies, and I got 7 years, and I did 28 in prison and other in jails and other institutions.
28 months, right?
28 months. Yeah. Ended up doing 43 months if you count jail and all that. What's interesting is I didn't know Brent. I grew up with Bob my whole life. Me and him got super close in like 2010 when I was California sober. I guess we'll call it that. I was California sober.
I don't know. I think California's a little worse now. You're better. You're probably Colorado. So
Colorado sober. Okay. But we became extremely close. Extremely close. If you watch Blanket Fort Chronicles, you heard some of our craziness on horses and stuff. But I didn't know Brent from anything. A matter of fact, I had a house in Decatur, and I went by and I said, I'm going to go look at my house to one of these people I used to run around with. And they're like, oh, you don't own that house. A state trooper bought your house. And I'm like, what are you talking about? My mom sold my house when I was in rehab and didn't like forge my signature and all that.
I didn't know nothing about
he didn't know any of that, but he ended up buying my house back then. Yeah. My daughter Chloe and his daughter Ansley have been friends ever since they was little, so we were connected there. And who would have thought it would all lead us back to here? Well, long story short, I went to prison, came home, married the absolute. You can't tell my story without talking about my wife, Tiffany.
Yeah.
She was everything. She was there. Like, I had a dog named Underdog.
I remember Underdog.
You remember Underdog?
I do remember Underdog.
And like, I had pissed everybody off, and Underdog was the only person, and it wasn't a person, but I identified it as a person.
Right.
The only thing that would like me was Underdog, and Underdog died. But God put Tiffany in my life as one of my really, really good friends. And that friendship blossomed. She stuck with me through prison. We got married as soon as I got out of prison. She stuck with me. Man, we have 4 beautiful kids now, Kaylee, Chloe, Kinley, and Kai, that range in age. We had an with Kai.
Yeah.
You know, we have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Yeah. Bless your heart.
So thank you, Jesus, on that. But yeah, it's amazing how we're all interconnected. God's kind of just led us back to each other. And now we're doing this experiment today to try to reach somebody, try to talk to somebody. I feel like a lot of people deal with addiction, and it's just kind of taboo. They know you're either directly or indirectly affected by addiction.
Yeah.
In this area, and I think globally probably, but this is all I know.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, we are in East Tennessee. I live in Dayton. You guys live in Meg-Sunny, which there's still small rural, areas. But yeah, I mean it's very, very rampant here. Very rampant here. When we were in high school, I believe it was Meg-Sunny was at one time was like the meth capital of Tennessee.
Yeah,
so I don't know if it still is or not, but I mean,
we're trying to get back to the top.
Yeah. Chattanooga, we coming for you, Chattanooga.
We're trying to get back up there. We lost the ranking for a minute, but.
Yeah. You know, we've been watching, we've been out, so I don't know when this is going to air, but right now we just went through our Snowmageddon. Right?
Oh, yeah. Snowmageddon.
Yeah. And my wife's a school teacher, so she's been home and my kids have been home. And so we've been binge watching Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, wearing it out. Am I allowed to talk about Netflix
on
here in the shows? Okay. Lincoln Lawyer, stinking awesome. What was I recommended to you?
Fool Me Once.
Fool Me Once.
We watched it, Maya.
Yeah. I mean, I've got my theories about Maya right now.
Yeah. But
I've got my own feelings about her.
Oh, have you not seen it yet?
Yeah,
no, I've seen it.
Oh, okay. All right. So, we've been on this, and I think it's an older show, but Queen of the South.
It is. It aired on USA.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
And my wife's like the most squared away person. Like, honestly, she is black and white. She's never she's drank a handful of times her whole life and just never. But like, I talked to her on the way over here today, and she's been in Cleveland, and she's said, "Hey, I'm coming up the interstate, and like, I'm just making sure people's not following me and stuff like that." She's going all cartel mode and stuff. You know what I mean? Because we're so wrapped up in this show. Yeah. But we was talking about being the meth capital. You know.
Yeah.
Like I've learned a couple of things through my own experience and also through Queen of the South. So
and she's seen you literally dig up your whole yard.
Oh man,
and throw stuff in it. So it probably resonated a little bit with her.
It was bad. No, she wants to be the cartel leader now.
Oh no, she's oh my God.
I can see her be a cartel.
Yeah, like she's like looking.
So she's shifting gears.
Yes,
is that an elected position? Or how does that work?
I'm not sure.
We know the mayor of Decatur.
Well, hey, sooner or later, we will have a stats person on here that can pull that stuff up for us.
Well, you know what? We can pretend that we have one right now, and they would never know the difference.
What is our stats person's name?
It needs to be cultured. It needs to be a cultured name.
Miguel.
Yeah.
Miguel. Miguel, what do you got us on those stats there for? Is the drug cartel leader an elected position?
Y bueno, creo que eso la enriquece mucho culturalmente.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you, Miguel, for those amazing stats.
Gracias, Miguel.
Gracias.
Yes.
So, yeah, we went through Snowmageddon.
We did.
Still going through it. I mean, schools are still out.
Yeah.
We're slated to get 2 to 5 inches of rain over the next day and a half.
Which I'm totally good with that. Harper went back to school today, and I'm really enjoying it. So, yeah, it was a good day. I mean, like, I loved her. I love her having her around. You know, we're best friends. We do everything, you know, together. But yeah, it's been really nice to not have kids.
Yeah. I don't know that yet. Our kids, I don't know if they're going to they're going to mail out a homeschool curriculum.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, which our mail's not running.
Right.
So I don't
Yeah,
know if they will get there.
Yeah.
What happened to the good old days? You know, the USPS, rain nor sleet nor snow.
It didn't matter,
You know what I'm
did it?
saying?
Didn't matter.
Dude, it didn't run here for, for 7 days.
I bet you was probably pretty bad off though.
It was pretty bad. I will say that.
Yeah.
I live on a pretty big hill.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're Americans. They can hightail. They can walk it up
They
here.
can.
You know,
I mean,
this is America.
They're getting paid.
What is
money
this,
to do
Canada?
this job. I mean, so, yeah. So Snowmageddon was no joke. Me and Brent our kids are still at home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is okay. You know, I don't mind it too much, but I will like a break.
Yeah.
No, I can't wait to take old Kinley back to school. She's been a little wild.
Drop them off.
Yeah.
I wish there were places now that you could just drop them off at, like you used to. In the old days, like we'd come home from school and you wouldn't see us. Like my parents would not see us until it was dark.
Yeah.
No.
Like that was it. You know,
No cell phones or nothing.
Yeah, you would know where everyone was at. Where like whoever's house had the most bikes in the front yard.
Yeah.
So that's where
they knew you were at.
Yeah.
You know, I talk about that a lot to people, like the good old days, like being able to do that. But man, I wouldn't let my kids dare do what I did.
Oh no!
I mean,
No,
you know
no,
what
no.
I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't like. Ainsley Modus has Life 360 on her phone, and like I watch it constantly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I'm wanting to know where. Like I'm that overprotective freak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What does that say about our parents?
I don't really love this too much. You know?
What does that say about our parents, or is that indicative of the culture of the time?
So
Yeah.
what
Well,
were
I
your
wound up
parents-
an addict. Thanks, Mom.
what were your parents? Were your parents? You know, were they pretty strict or were they pretty lax?
No, I had to. So with me, my mom had me at 17, right? And my biological father and her got married, and then they got divorced when I was 7, and he kind of left the picture. You know, my mom's freaking awesome. Like she is. I mean,
Shout out to Julie.
Yeah. My mom is stinking. She has. Mom always done the best she could.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying with me. But then her and my stepdad, Brian, who came into my life when I think I was 11 or 12. He's pretty much raised me, you know, and like that's my girls as Popeye and all that, you know. But like, mom said it best sometimes. Like we kind of grew up together too, because like I said, she had me at 17, you know.
Yeah.
So no, would she you know, let me, you know, hey Brent, I want to go buy you some pot or something. No, it wasn't nothing like that. But you know, and I was a master manipulator too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I could come up with some pretty good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of times, so no, I wouldn't say strict. I mean, you know, very loving and very caring. Yeah, absolutely. But I wouldn't say like strict. You
Right.
know, like I had some friends that had some strict parents. You know.
Yeah.
And I would think, oh man, thank God, like mine are not like that. But now versus like you Bob, I mean. As far as your parents go, I mean, I know your story is.
Like I said, like my dad was hardly ever around.
Yeah.
And it was just mom. So a lot of times mom would threaten to call dad, but what's he going to do from Ohio?
Right. Yeah.
You know? And so, I mean, I was mischievous. I was, you know, I wasn't a bad kid, but I was definitely ornery. I was for sure. And ornery. But yeah, so I guess, I don't know if there was a point where she just kind of gave up. You know, just saying like you're going to do this, you're going to not. Because once I got of an age where, like, especially when I became a teenager, it was pretty much like what are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? But in the same right, I think because they were just so lax, and I'm not saying this is the right way to be, but I think they were so lax with me growing up. I really didn't have anything to rebel against.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was
It might have been a blessing in disguise, huh?
Kind of, yeah. And so there was never like a time where like, oh, I'm going to do this in spite of you because you're. And I don't want to say they didn't care. It just wasn't.
Yeah.
It was never enforced. If that was a thing.
You know what? Something I think so crazy is like my wife's family and like I've got an awesome family. Like my grandparents, everything's all. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I don't want to downplay none of that. That my real dad left the picture when I was young because I didn't have a bad childhood. Mm-hmm. But like my wife's family and stuff like that, just as close as we grew up together, but culturally how different it is. You know what I'm saying? They're very, because I mean, man, like my mom's awesome. My wife's freaking just as awesome, if not awesomer. You know what I'm saying? Like, should have left my tail, kind of like you talked about Tiffany a long time ago. You know what I mean? And like, I feel like if the roles were reversed, like if I was in Katie's position, like I would have left her, you know. But like, thank God her family and stuff brought it like in true Christian values. Like, hey, don't believe in divorce, don't believe in stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and God's grace, of course, is at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, you know. But like, it's just so crazy how culturally, as close as we grew up down the road, you know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't literally go up down the road, but let's just say 20 miles from each other, just how much different. You know, I mean, that
different
just shows
belief
you
systems
different belief system and stuff. You know, and I know like just different parts of the world. Because your parents not originally from Florida, Bob?
They did, yeah. They lived in Florida. They're originally from Ohio.
Okay.
They're originally from Ohio, and then they moved to Florida. They moved to Homosassa. So I'm almost positive that my sisters, of course, they were 21, 20, and 15 when I was born. I'm pretty sure that I think Gina and maybe Barbara were probably born in Florida.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that Tiana, the oldest one, had lived in Florida, and this was all right before I was born. So they moved back to Tennessee, I think, in '87. I think that's when they came back. I could be wrong there, but yeah. So I'm from here.
Right.
The rest of them.
Right.
Yeah.
But you said something too that I really kind of want to touch on a little bit. You're talking about that culture, how your wife was raised, you know, no divorce, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, because we live in a society right now that even amongst Christians, you know, the divorce rate is over 50%.
Yeah.
And I think I think that culture starts with your mindset, really, honestly. It really does. Yeah. I think any culture does, but I know for us, like, that's not an option.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll be on Dateline before I get a divorce.
and I'll say this too. I'm not. Let me be very careful in saying what I'm saying right now, because there are people that absolutely that's what you need to do. You know, like there, and in that case, truthfully, you probably shouldn't have been married in the first place.
Katie should have 100 times over,
and
like no crap.
Yeah,
like, and it would have been justified by everybody.
And,
you know
and
what I mean?
I can say, like, my dad was saying the other day, he was in the nursing home when I was wheeling him out, and then he's now in ICU. But he'd even said, you know, we've been together for 50 something years. And I'm not saying that they should have divorced, but there was a lot of animosity and stuff, and there's still to this day there's a lot of hurt and stuff that have never really been kind of dealt with. Yeah. So just because you stay together doesn't mean that that's the right decision. I don't in my mind, you know, at least. But I know at least with my wife, that's something that we sat down. I sat down with my father-in-law whenever I went to get married. Before I even dated her, I said, look. I said, I'm going to go ahead and let you know my intentions right now, because I'm not super traditional, but I wanted to let you know. Yeah. If I do this, if I even say, yes, I'm going to date you, I'm not dating to date. I want, I'm ready for marriage.
Exactly.
And he was raised, no divorce. This is it. And that's how I was raised. And we don't even joke about it.
Yeah.
There's never like, oh, I'm going to divorce you, ha ha, or like or even out of anger. There's nothing ever that was said, even as mad as we've ever gotten. We get mad. That would insinuate, you know, even just an inkling of like that's an option. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people today, divorce is the primary option.
Yeah.
Because it's no longer once the fuzzy feelings are gone,
right? And
once you start, you know, realizing, hey, I'm in this for life.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a choice,
right?
Yeah. And then when you got to wake up and make a choice to love that person, people are out.
Yeah.
They're taking the easy road because that's what they've seen. And,
right.
And I'm not saying I'm with you. There's some people, you know, mine and Brent's story. There's a lot of people out there that's never left.
Yeah.
That has ended badly for them.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely,
so we are outliers in this. So, you know, I'm not saying that you should never get a divorce, but we were all raised culturally different. Yeah. But that's been one kind of constant with all of us. Like, and I don't know what it looks like today in this society to be able to make a choice and stay by it.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we're so like, I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean that goes with not just your marriage, not just relationships, but the choice to stay clean, or the choice to get up and work a job, or the choice to to do better for yourself financially, and that's called becoming an adult.
Yeah. Right.
And that offends a lot of people.
Yeah.
It really does. And there's the offense of I'm my own person. I want to feel this way. I want to do this. And cool. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not what we're talking here. Is this culture of where your choices matter, and that is a choice. That is a choice every single day that you wake up. Every day, I choose to love my wife. My wife chooses to love me, and sometimes it's a hard thing for her to do.
Oh, and the thing is
right.
Is what you're saying there too, Bob, is like, that is a choice. You know what I mean? Like that's something like it, because not every day's. I'm not saying nothing I wouldn't tell my wife, but not every day's easy to love her.
Yeah.
And I can assure you, not every day's easy for her to love me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I've like I said, I've been cooped up with them for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
I do celebrate recovery and that kind of stuff, and we were talking last night after a meeting, and I'm like, during this snowmageddon, like I've never thought about, like, drinking ain't come across my mind, but daggum strangling my wife and kids absolutely has. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like that's that choice like we have to make, and at the base of all of it, it's just it's a sin thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, honestly, that it's a sin thing, and it's okay. Yeah, I was in love with her now, but 10 years down the road, we're starting to age. You know what I'm saying, and all that. And yeah, could I leave her, or could she leave? Whatever, But I mean, that's deception and stuff like that. Now, granted, I feel like we talked, there's terms for divorce. You know what I'm saying? But man, like, dig down deep, and if you're a believer, you really dig down deep, and you know what I'm saying, before you go that route. But I'll concur. Katie should have divorced me 100 times over, and would have been definitely justified to do so.
I think it's discipline is the key factor in all of that. Whether it's I know it's kind of weird to say, but it's like you have to discipline yourself to love. But you do. You really do. You have to discipline yourself, and you go through those motions of, like, you get in the gym. Okay, everything's going hard, right? You're going hard and you're feeling good, right? Well, then you don't start seeing the results that you see, and then you fall back, and then it's like, I'm not feeling it, so I'm out. And that's the same as that thing. You fall in love with somebody, you're with somebody, it's great, everything's amazing, it's awesome, and then all of a sudden they start nagging, and you know what I'm saying? And it's like, now you're getting this rut where it's like, man, like, it's not easy anymore, so let me go on to something else. And
I think that's what we're kind to try to separate there is the easy way, just because you're kind of sick of each other. Yeah. And then maybe abuse, maybe an addict, or there's reasons to really justify a divorce. Right. So I don't want to talk down on people that have a divorce.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No.
So it's my mom. I mean, I'm like the only one in my family that hasn't been divorced. Right. You know what I mean?
And that's, I mean, and I don't say this, I don't say this lightly either. And I mean this, if you were a psychologist probably looking in on at least my parents' marriage, you would probably say, yeah, you've been together for 50 something years, but you probably shouldn't have been.
Right.
You probably would have been happier not.
Right.
Both of you, just because
a choice.
Because of a choice.
Well, and there's grounds biblically for divorce.
Right.
I mean, there's grounds in the Bible for, you know what I'm saying? There's grounds biblically. So yeah. What about you, Kasey? What about your upbringing? I mean, you mentioned your dad's mom started Watts Bar, but as far as your upbringing, was it strict?
Was it strict?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was strict. A true disciplinarian. My dad was a great man. My mom was a great woman, but they were tough. My older brothers, they say they got it way worse than me, because I guess they kind of, by each son, they stopped whipping a little bit more. But I remember my dad, like, if I was doing something during church, like, he would take me to the bathroom and whip me during church. And if he told me he was going to whip me and I went home and went to sleep, before he got home from church, he would whip me before I went to school. Like, and it wasn't because he was mad, it's because he told me he was going to do it. Right. And I went into school like... So they were super, I don't want to say hard on me. I think at times I knew the church, and I had a pastor more than I had a dad sometimes. Right. And that's not a bad thing either. He did what he knew to do, and he was a great man. Like, if you ask anybody around here about Kenneth Goins, they're going to say great things.
Yeah.
So this is just me in a microcosm talking about my dad that nobody else has a clue.
Right.
And I look back now and say, I think that's where I made a lot of bad choices that made me think a lot of bad things about my parents.
Right.
My parents were great. I had everything I ever wanted. I think the one thing that me and Brent have in common about our mothers is they're enablers.
Yeah.
My mother loved me. Yeah. She loved me. But after my dad passed, if it was Kasey went to jail, she was coming to get me out until Kasey had no bond anymore and she couldn't get me out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So my mother, and I ain't going to speak to Brent's situation, she loved me, but she enabled me.
Yeah.
But I have to take it back to me.
Yeah.
Now
That's
looking
right.
back, I made all those choices for her to be able to enable me in the first place. So I'm not going to lay any blame at the feet of anybody except my own, because it was all conscious decisions that I made.
That's right.
Right.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
Speaking of homes we grew up in, we're talking about where each one of us come. We have a special sponsor for this episode and also Blanket Fort Chronicles,
Yep.
correct?
Yeah. Correct.
James Lacombe,
Caldwell Banker.
Caldwell Bankers,
Yeah.
can put you in any home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He can put you in any home. If you're looking to downsize, or you're looking to upsize, or you're looking to just sell your property, call James Lacombe at Caldwell Banker.
Yeah. Just click the link in the description right now.
Now back to the show.
But my upbringing was really strict. I was in church, man. We had a 7-week revival one time, and I was there every single night.
Was it every day?
I missed I played basketball, and Dad wouldn't let me go to the games. I was in church.
So it was 7 weeks, so 49 days.
Yeah, 49 days. And, and
Do you remember that, Bob?
This was before I was born. Was it not?
I played drums.
If it wasn't, then I was maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It was when I was in 3rd grade, so it was probably, I guess it was. You were born in 87?
I was born in 89.
89.
Yeah.
So, I think it was in like 88.
80. So it was right before I was born.
Yeah, so 88. Man.
Because Kelly got saved at the last night of the
last night of that revival.
Oh, really?
And if you're talking,
Wow.
if you don't know who Kelly is, if you're watching, that is my brother and our pastor.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think he'll be having a podcast maybe come out later this year.
Yeah.
So,
He'll probably definitely be a guest on here with
yeah,
us.
he'll be
for sure.
definitely a guest on here. But he got saved the last night of that revival. But when I'm talking about, we went to church, we went to church, we went to church, we went to church, and then we would have these services. I don't know if we would have 2-3 hour services, Bob, and this is when you were born. And I'm talking about not even preaching yet. I would be playing drums and my hands bleeding from blisters, and I'm like, what a mighty God we serve.
There's a point in that, because I played drums too, and there was a time where it, like, once you get past that like second hour of just playing it, like, your spine just goes numb. Your arms just go numb, and you're like,
butt's numb. I don't have a butt.
Yeah, before that, you're like, this, I can't go on anymore. And then after that, you're like, let's go 8 hours. We can do it. Yeah.
And see, I tell you, I still want to. I want to go to like a true Pentecostal church, because I've never been.
Yeah.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I've never been. So, me growing up Baptist, I went to First Baptist Decatur and stuff, throughout of, past 20 years, let's say 15, 20 years, But even in like high school and stuff, Watts Bar, Church of God, like, we just, oh Lord, there had no snakes up on the hill.
There was
you know
a
what I'm saying?
reputation.
Like, that was the reputation.
There was a reputation, and I didn't help that reputation.
And I did not either.
At all, because I would tell everybody.
I would tell my buddies, hey, that hole in the floor up there is where they keep the snakes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's where they keep them.
I remember we did a youth night, and it was the first time that we ever got First Baptist to do anything with us, ever. And Pastor Ken was really excited about it.
Yeah.
And I was leading worship that night. I was 15, 16 years old, 16, I think. And he pulled me aside and he said, Bob, he said, if you embarrass me tonight, so help me God, please be on your best behavior. And I was like, yes, sir. And then, not even 5 minutes into the service, I was like, all right, we're gonna get through the first song of worship. We're gonna bring the snakes out in the second song. And he's just like, oh my Lord. I think Harmon.
Coach Harmon.
Yeah.
And
Milburn.
Milburn.
Yeah.
Who was his dad?
Dole.
Yeah, he was there. He was there, and I'm pretty sure Don Roberts was
Yeah.
there.
Oh, he's Don Robert. I remember that was that the football choir age when they had a football choir that went around?
That football choir had already quit when I got to high school. When me and Bob was in high school, football choir had already quit because Miss Jennings had already retired. And stuff,
I'll tell you.
It was Mama Jennings, right? Is that what it was? Justin's mom?
Justin's mom.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So, what people that might want to find out if they ever come to our church, Watts Bar Community Church, shout out, is that it's going to surprise you. It's not going to be what you thought it was.
Yeah.
And I can give a shout out to the whole team there, real quick, Pastor Kelly, but and his wife, Pastor Denise, the whole staff, and we'll get into that. But Pastor Bob does. And here's another, he does a fantastic job. He has probably 30 people under him because not only does he do praise and worship, he's over the media.
Yep.
And he would never sit up here and toot his horn, and it's just not his character. But man, over the last, and I remember when he first started playing drums and he first started singing, and I was like, man, that's, Lord. Bless him.
Bless
you know what
him,
we say in the South? Bless him.
Bless him.
I was like, but he was persistent, and man, he's just not only a phenomenal human being, but a consummate professional. And
I got into a debate with a buddy of mine. He goes to I think it's what is it in Athens? Redemption to the Nation.
Oh, Redemption, yeah.
And I'm like, our band would smoke y'all's, and he's like, well, let's get a battle of the bands.
Battle
dude.
of the bands.
Well,
Let's
the
do it.
church is like, let's do it. Like, I'm all for it.
See, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the Arnwines go there.
Yeah, they do.
That is not a battle that I want to get into.
I think Braun.
They're bad. They're bad.
Tell them bring it.
Yeah,
I
they're
got
bad.
confidence in you. Oh, Bobalicious.
But
yeah, the snake thing was always something that we knew from outside, because Brent would have been one of those people that I looked up when I was growing up, and I'm 10 years their senior. But when I grew up, there was like a disconnect between Watts Bar and any other church in the community. There was a disconnect. There was like, that church is different. It's wild. And almost to the point where I think that lended to some of my crazy behavior at school and my wild personality is that I wanted to do anything to fit in.
Yeah.
You know, because there was kind of cliques.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say about any church, any denomination, and Methodist, Baptist, Church of God, Pentecostal, anything, whatever it is, as long as it's authentic.
Yeah.
Is that what you're presenting authentic?
Yeah.
And that's another thing I will say is that I don't think the people that went to church, First Baptist, made me feel like that. I made myself feel like that because I felt kind of like an outcast.
Well, and I'll tell you today, too, though, I mean, like, our relationships with other churches are really
amazing.
It's something my dad dreamed of.
Yeah.
When my dad started this church 40 years ago, it was a dream of his of like knocking down those denominational walls and seeing. And we just had a men's conference. And I know we said this wasn't going to be a Christian podcast, but this is our life. So you're going to hear a lot about this stuff.
Yeah.
So we had a men's conference with 120, 130 guys from several different denominational backgrounds.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
It was
amazing.
amazing.
It was.
Amazing. One of the highlights of probably last year for me. Before all this, you can't talk about us without talking about God.
Amen. Yeah.
You know, and because it's our job.
Yeah.
And Brent is so active in almost 3 or 4 different ministries we have going on.
Yeah.
And that you just can't talk about because he's brought us out a lot. And what I will say Bob talked a little bit about his background, but if you ever heard Bob's testimony, it's a true miracle. Like, my wife and Bob had similar upbringings where a lot of people would blame that on their blame their situation on that, and they would turn out totally different. They would be a drug addict. They would be whatever, and I blame it on me getting a few whippings, and so I'm a drug addict. You know, and it's pretty inspirational.
I've never been a component of that. I've never had that narrative, and I have a hard time. Like, I show mercy and grace, but I have a really hard time being okay with somebody that just blames everything on their pastor, blames somebody else for something, for the circumstances, because I just don't buy it. I don't buy into it. And now, do things happen to us that shape us? Sure.
Yeah.
But they don't. What I do today has nothing to do with what happened to me or anything that was out of my control when I was a kid.
That's right.
Nothing.
Yep.
I mean, it all boils down to that choice. We had a choice.
We had a choice.
Always had a choice. Your choice is: are you going to react this way, or are you going to react this way? And I'm by no means am I ever saying that I always reacted the right way. I never. No, that's not the case at all. But what I am saying is, regardless of what happened, period, there is no comma, like no but.
Yeah.
Period.
It was your choice.
It's your choice.
Yeah.
It's your choice.
And I think one of my favorite quotes I've heard on this was by a friend of ours, Kelsey Moss.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Spring City Nutrition.
Yeah.
That he has one of my favorite quotes he said, and he posted this. He said, if you were born into a situation, you were abused, you were born into an addicted home, or that's not your fault.
Right.
But if you die like that, that's on you, cuz.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is.
You had choices. That the same choices your parents had to put you in that situation, you have choices to get you out of that situation. Yeah. So that was a powerful quote. I think this first episode is just kind of showing the world, or showing, and I believe it could be a world thing.
Yeah,
right now it's a community thing, but I believe it can grow past these boundaries. But showing who we are, showing that we are just people, that we grew up miles from each other, different backgrounds, different belief systems that's come together and really just pulled ourselves up by the bootstraps and said, I'm going to make right choices. Yeah. Because here's what I know. If you made a lifetime of bad choices, one good choice does not eradicate a lifetime of bad choices.
Right.
You have to make a series of good choices.
I like that old saying. It's one dang it boy will override 500 that boys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It will. They're going to remember the bad first.
Yeah.
So, guys, I think that this has been a great first run.
Yeah.
We talked about a lot. We tackled a lot. I feel like the audience knows us a little better.
Yeah.
Knows who we are. It is not going to be this heavy.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's going to be topical. One, we might tackle a ghost story. Yeah. Or when it gets Tennessee time, we might have our wives on here and talk Tennessee football. Yeah. We love Tennessee football.
We might be able to get Peyton Manning or something.
And
I'll call him.
Oh, you could probably get.
We're like
y'all could probably get.
Coach Heupel,
Heupel, we could. Can we show the photos?
We can show. Here's the photo right here.
We'll show the photos. We know him personally.
We do, and also this is right here is a photo of me and Kasey with him, just hanging out.
He was so happy. He was so happy to see us.
He calls me Bobo.
That's Bobo.
Bobo, and I call him Hypo.
And it was a beautiful relationship that just blossomed.
It did.
So now we might. Potentially in the future, we could have him on. We talked about Katie, but we talked about Tennessee football.
Yeah.
You know, she had actually a little drug problem of her own.
Yeah.
You know, she drug Brent to every Tennessee game that there could be.
That's the best.
Brent is a diehard Tennessee fan, not by choice, but by association.
You know, what's crazy is people say, man, you play football and stuff in high school. Like, you know, like, why don't you enjoy it or nothing? I'm like, because my mom said if I didn't play a sport, I had to get a job. Yeah. So, and football wasn't during duck season or deer season. So, but yeah, it's funny. So I went to jail, right? And we'll probably get more on this story in different episodes. But I prayed to God and I said, God, if you restore my marriage, I'll go to every Tennessee football game Katie wants to go to.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, where I screwed up is I told her I prayed to God and told God that.
So she ain't going to let you live that down.
First game of the year, we were in Nashville, you know.
That's a win-win situation.
And it was hot, bro.
Oh, it was hot.
It was hot, man.
Tiffany
was melting.
What was funny was PK, Kasey, and Katie, my wife, were freaking,
pumped.
And I was with Denise and Tiffany. I was like the third woman of that series. And it was like,
they're like, let's go.
I'm hot. Can we go? You know,
Can I just go sit in the car, please?
That's
amazing. It was funny.
What position did you play? I remember you playing.
Well, believe it or not, I was wide receiver and defensive back.
Okay.
But that was about 100 pounds ago, guys. So I'd be on O-line and D-line now.
I remember that. I loved football so much, but I just loved music more. So I was in band and I was there. I was at every game. Yeah. You ever played that? Every game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was.
You was repping.
I was repping. I was rocking
repping the Tigers.
I was repping in just a different way, and a really cool way. Because I mean, like if you were in band, you were the coolest.
Yeah.
Well, who was your band teacher? It wasn't Mr. D, was it?
I had two band teachers. The first one was Robert. No, not Robert. Lance Kennedy.
Lance. Okay.
Lance Kennedy. That was freshman year, and no. It was it was all the way to my junior year, and then my senior year it was Miss McKenzie, which later became Miss Hahn, and then is
she still there, Bob?
She is. She's an English teacher now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
But yeah, so went through a couple of them, but I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
We're all Tigers here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Tigers at heart.
Tiger
TFL.
Nation. I only go to games because my daughter's a cheerleader.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm a Tiger.
That's right.
Tiger till I die.
TFL.
Yeah.
TFL.
Hashtag TFL.
So, guys, if you enjoyed this, share it. Share it. And like we said, this is just our first episode. Mm-hmm. We're going to have another one next month. Mm-hmm. So in between these episodes, share it.
Yeah.
Tell us other topics you would like to talk about. Tell us things that you would like to hear us talk about, things that we can get on here and discuss with each other. Guests you might want us to have on besides Josh Heupel. Bobo knows Heupel. He can get that done. That's done. That's
easy.
done. That's
fact,
probably going to be our December episode.
It's probably too easy. I don't know if I even want to go that route. We probably won't even get them just because it's so easy.
Yeah. So if you can think of people you would like to hear us chat with, bring in. I think one episode we might bring our wives in.
Yeah. My wife would not talk.
Yeah,
My wife wouldn't either.
So it would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah.
So
it would.
Very awkward.
Yeah.
So
or we could not show up and then have our wives do it in our place. I think that'd be
really cool.
Terrifying.
We'd be in the booth.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about this, the prospect of this podcast, Juxtabros, kicking off.
Yeah.
Hit us up with those things. Like I said, share.
Yes.
And we just want to shout out. I want to shout out my wife, which I'm going to shout her out till I die. And I think each one of us feel like that. That's our best friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like without this, none of this would be possible.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be here talking if we didn't have somebody supporting us.
That's right.
So thank her and thank God. And hey, guys, until next month, we love you.
Love you. Peace out.